Story's going to have a lot of reverberations here. Shocking new report on the nursing home scandal in New York involving deaths caused by COVID-19 across the entire state. Brian Yennis is on this from the beginning, in fact. Brian, the news is not favorable here. It's a stunning report. About 50% of the deaths may be higher than has what been reported. What do you have now? Hello.
Yeah, Bill, good morning. This is a bombshell report, a 76-page preliminary report on the investigation conducted by the Office of the Attorney General here in New York, Letitia James, which found that the deaths in nursing homes and assisted living facilities of COVID-19 in the state were actually undercounted by as much as 50%. The report also found that nursing home facilities lacked proper PPE as well as testing for COVID-19, which led to the increased risk of death of those people in these long-term care facilities. The investigation also found that some nursing homes are to blame, too, for their lack of compliance and poor service. More than 20 nursing homes are now under investigation. Also, in terms of the undercounting of deaths, in the investigation, there was this example. Take a look at this. In one example, 11 confirmed or presumed deaths were counted in one nursing home. The actual number of deaths were 40. More than 8,000 people have died of COVID-19 in nursing homes in the state. That is the official count. But families have long suspected that the death tolls were far larger than that. Remember, more than 42,000 people have died of COVID in New York. That's the largest number in the country. Now, under Governor Andrew Cuomo, the state was only counting those who died of COVID-19 inside the facilities. They were not counting those who died of COVID-19 while they were at the hospital. The state also found that the March 2020 New York State Department of Health guidance to nursing homes and long-term care facilities requiring them to accept COVID-19 infected patients that were just released from the hospitals may have increased deaths. And this is despite Governor Andrew Cuomo's claims that they conducted a study that found that there was no correlation between that DOH order and the number of deaths. In a statement in the release, it says, quote, government guidance requiring the admission of COVID-19 patients into nursing homes may have put residents at increased risk of harm in some facilities and may have obscured the data available to assess that risk. Now, Governor Andrew Cuomo's office has said they were simply following federal guidelines to ensure that no one was denied access to these long-term care facilities. But again, he has been under incredible pressure from critics and families who point to that order as the reason why there were so many deaths in the facilities. Now, in a statement, Attorney General Letitia James said this, quote, as the pandemic and our investigations continue, it is imperative that we understand why the residents of nursing homes in New York suffered at such an alarming rate. The big question now, Bill, is what happens next. And in this report, the Attorney General calls out the fact that, frankly, under a March 23rd, 2020 immunity clause that was signed by the governor, a lot of these nursing home facilities and those responsible for these deaths fall under immunity. She's asking the New York governor and the state to overturn that immunity clause so that those can be, so that people can be held responsible for these thousands of deaths. But there's going to be a lot of questions for the governor. Families have been asking for a long time, where was the data? They believe that there were more deaths than that were actually being counted, and they believe that that order in March of 2020, ordering people back into nursing homes, despite the fact they were infected with COVID-19, caused more deaths. And this report, at least preliminarily, is saying it looks that way, and we're going to continue to investigate.
Strong indictment, really stunning stuff. Brian, thank you. Quick reporting on that, Brian Yennis. Thank you. The governor was talking about this just this week, 2 days ago.
The governor did an interview in which he said it was federal incompetence, and incompetent government kills people. More people died than needed to die in COVID. That's the truth. Well, indeed, it is. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, remember, this governor wrote a book about how well he did in the pandemic response. It became a bestseller, and then he won an Emmy for his briefings.
For briefings.
And now you have families who they weren't there to be able to hold their loved one's hands. They weren't able to have a funeral, and now they're finding this out.
What Brian's reporting at the end there is important to emphasize. These were COVID patients who were being treated at local hospitals here in New York, and the order came out that said, once they're released from the hospital, the nursing home must take them back in. Well, these nursing centers with all the elderly, they were the most vulnerable of all. at any point in COVID-19, especially during March and April of last year. It's a really stunning indictment. We've reached out to the AG. Hopefully we get her on her very soon.
We'd love to have her and have a talk to her. Great show today. Thank you for being
nice
a
to be with
partner
you.
in
I'll see you
crime
at
here.
5 o'clock.
Thank you so much.